Hello students. Today I'm going to go over some clarifications about your lab reports. These details apply for all the virtual labs you'll have to do in this course that require a lab report. When you start the virtual lab, the Edgenuity teacher will explain some of the details, but you need to carefully read and follow the directions laid out on the student guide for the lab. This is a sample of a guide. You can see that there are detailed instructions on how to do the lab. Gives you an idea of the procedure and what the lab will look like and each of the steps. It also gives you an idea of the data tables that you're going to have to fill out. These data tables need to be filled out as you do the lab. You should have the guide open as you follow along with the lab. You need to either print out the lab and write down the data in the data tables as you do the lab, or fill out the file electronically using Microsoft Word. So it is very important to follow the directions in the student guide and fill out all the data before you write your lab report. Once you complete the lab and the lab reflection, you'll get a screen something like this. It says documents for this activity. You have lab report guide and lab report rubric. The lab report guide is your guide on how to write the lab report. The lab report rubric is how it's going to be graded. You need to click on the lab report guide and open up the lab report guide to complete the lab report. This is a sample of a lab report guide. As you can see, there are directions and questions for you to answer based on the lab. If you complete the questions in the lab report guide, you will have a much easier time completing the actual lab report. The lab report guide is not, I repeat, is not your actual lab report. It only guides you on how to write the lab report by having you answer certain questions about the lab. All the information you need to complete the lab report is contained in either the lab report guide or the student guide. You need to write your lab report in the format described in the lab guide. Look under the heading Writing the Lab Report and you will see how the lab report is supposed to be written. It's organized in several different sections with headings, and you're also going to need your data to complete this. Write this report as a Google Doc or Word doc and submit it in that form to Edgenuity. The lab report is the only thing you actually need to turn in, and it is your grade for the lab. Here's an example of a low-scoring lab report. Notice it does not contain the data tables or any of the section headings that are required by the lab report. This person basically just answered the lab guide questions and then turned it in. This person did not get a passing grade on the lab. This next example is an example of a good lab report from the same lab. It does have labeled sections. That's based on what the lab guide is telling you to do. It does have the data. Notice this person just copy and pasted their data tables into their lab report. However, it is missing a few things, including some section labels, and in particular, it's missing one whole section referred to as analysis. However, this person did receive a better than average score for this lab report. Once you have completed the lab, remember to upload your Word or Google Doc to Edgenuity. The labs for this course are about 20% of your grade and will be directly graded by me. Please do your best work and let me know if you have any specific questions about the process of the lab report.